The vastness of space doesn't feel empty these days. It had, for a while, in the beginning. Without life, all and naught were one, so it waited, alone, covering a third of a planet as its throne. Then suddenly life came to be. Joy followed shortly after, when the creature found these living beings. It watched from afar, from atop its home, and it remembered them fondly when their light of existence extinguished once more. But the dam had burst. Popping up, sometimes alone, sometimes in clusters, forms of life popped up like mushrooms in fall, although mushrooms didn't come to be until quite recently. The creature on the planet watched. The creature on the planet remembered. Every species, every love, every war, and although it didn't have one itself, every name. Upon its throne, the creature watched civilizations grow, learn, expand. Then, suddenly, with a flash, as bright as the farewell of a star, space travel came into being. Anger followed shortly after. The first civilization to lay its eyes upon the creature had been terribly rude in its behavior. Following societies were careful not to repeat the mistake. The creature on the planet would like you to know that the stories surrounding this event have been grossly overstated. It is safe to say, however, that the creature did not like this new emotion. In order to foster a pleasant tranquility, it started answering any questions societies might have, returning any of their knowledge that had been lost. Life seemed pleased with this arrangement. By the time humans came to be, the universe had flourished. Everywhere the creature looked, there was someone looking back. New species, new civilizations, all as unique and joyous to watch as the others. Here, however, a problem arose. Life was bountiful, life was plenty, and although time and space had never been a barrier up to this point, there was a limit. The creature reached it, and for the first time ever, it wept. From its tears, seas formed in the world below. Sadness came to be. Nonetheless, the creature watched as much as it could. Humanity came into its own. Humans started creating tools. They started developing languages, and in the process started telling stories. The creature approved of this. Stories are information. To be stored is to be remembered. Life should be watched, and when it fades, the memories of it should be kept safe. For life is joy, and joy is all. Watch, remember, know. Good humans. Alas, bad humans all the same. For stories were not equal to facts. As soon as these Terrans started to share their knowledge around the warm glow of their campfires, so did they share fictions, lies. Many species did, but none were quite as quick, quite as adept as humans were. The creature should know. It spent quite some of its precious energy on looking for frivolous inventions. Winged horses, evil spirits, gods more powerful than even the creature itself. It has spent most of its energy looking for this horror, described as eldritch, because the description quite resembled itself. The creature had looked everywhere. Literally every single place. It didn't dwell on this. It had many other civilizations to watch. Terribly many. Very exciting. A little exhausting at times. In order to still obtain it all, the creature had no choice but to limit its spread of knowledge. Every civilization now had a right to one question, and one question only. Some of them spent eons debating on what to ask. Their delegations were pompous and large. Others were represented by a single captain who had lost their way. The creature helped them find their planet again with great pleasure, but warned of what their countrymen would do if they found out the question had been wasted. Some asked for certain technology. Smart choice. Although the creature was sure they would have figured it out eventually. Some asked for enemies' weaknesses. Some asked questions that even the creature could not answer, for the answer had never been found, and the creature didn't do finding. Life finds. The creature watched. It watched as humanity shot arrows, slung stones, slung quite large stones actually, over impressive distances. 300 terameters, a kilometer, 20 kilometers. Soon it invented rockets and mistakenly fired them at each other. When they got bored with that, they finally reached a better target, the Moon, Mars, Pluto, surprisingly, another galaxy. Soon they spread out far enough to reach one of the larger intergalactic communities. Humanity was popular at first. Every species has a niche, something they are good at compared to others. Humans were fine data collectors, good scientists, and extraordinary entertainers. The popularity decreased quite a bit when these first humans realized how easy it was to con their way to riches. It nosedived when a young Terran called Parser entered the space station of Chantius with not a credit to his name, and left it a few hours later in command of some 74 vessels. Parser ordered commands and the crews complied, believing him to be a relieving admiral. He wasn't, and he didn't have the foggiest idea of what he was doing. This is not unusual for humans. Most spend their entire lifetime in that state. Most aren't in control of the crown jewel of the 13th quadrant, the edges of a black hole, a silent vanishing into eternity. 4 ships were left to tell the tale. It was only one event, and definitely not the first of its kind. The Commission decided it would be the last. Humanity didn't stand a chance. They were simply not yet advanced enough. Pluto fell. Mars fell. Just about all of their inhabitants fell as well, but delayed the fleets enough for a large portion of the Earth to be evacuated. The following years were hell. Everywhere they turned, they were either chased out, shot at, or quite rudely told they were not welcome. Many died on a road leading nowhere in particular. Eventually, a ship reached the creature on the planet. It was smaller than it once was, but it covered still about a fifth of the planet underneath. Out of the ship stepped not a fanfare or celebration, but one woman, and one woman only. She faced the towering creature, not quite knowing if she was even on the right side of the planet, if she was looking at its face. She greeted, and it greeted her back. Her name was Gaia. She was not that old, even for a Terran. She wanted to cry, but didn't. Admirable, thought the creature. If she had come to ask where her people could go settle, the creature would be pleased to share their knowledge. It just hoped she chose the right question. "Can I ask it now?" she asked, and immediately felt in her heart that she could. Ask the right question, the creature thought to himself. Please. I thank you for your graciousness. Humanity has had a rough time. We lost everything. Our homes, our loved ones, our safety. What I have come to ask you, dear creature, the creature interjected. What I have come to ask you, dear creature, could we stay with you for a while? Huh. Strange. The creature did not recall asking for favors being part of the deal. It also didn't recall it not being part of the deal. It scraped his memory for an answer, but couldn't really find one there. It's just, the girl continued when she didn't get an answer, this world has the perfect climate. The oceans are salty, the trees are green, and no one would dare to attack us here. I promise we'll get out of here as soon as we get on our feet again. For the first time in a long while, the creature set his mind on the ground beneath it. Gaia was right. The life it loved so dearly had flourished into colourful symphonies and spectacles, right underneath its long, unmoving tentacles. Its tears had revitalized, and so it came to be that humanity lived between its limbs, resting, rebuilding. They lived of the nature it had so inadvertently created. They warmed themselves with the heat it emitted. They slept on the millions of suckers that covered its body, and apparently made for excellent beds. The creature didn't ask for much in return, just not to cause too much of a ruckus so it could keep watching, so it could remember. After a few generations, most of humanity had left again. Only a small amount still lingered around. The creature didn't quite get why, at first, but when these Terrans started building these welcome halls with beautiful gardens, it realized it was being thanked. It accepted. Life is joy. Joy is all. Many more years passed. Life kept expanding. The creature that watched only covered about a ninth of the planet by this point. It knew it would be gone soon. Everything goes at some point. Only a handful of humans were still with it. Humanity had moved on. It was glad for them. It still watched them sometimes, but not often. It couldn't anymore. There was so much life. The creature was so old. It only saw a fraction of what there was to see. But it remembered. It remembered still. It hoped humanity did too. It worried sometimes about the humans that still lived between its tentacles. If the planet was attacked, the creature wasn't sure if it would see it in time. It wasn't sure if they were safe anymore. One day, its greatest fear came to be. It felt the ships late, too late for evacuations. Damn it! How dared these creatures? How dared they attack? Life is joy. Joy is all. How dared they? For the first time it could remember, and it remembered, the creature moved. Power coursed through its body. It leapt into the air. Like solar flares, enormous tentacles swept through hundreds of thousands of miles of open space, ready to fight, ready to protect this life it had watched since the beginning of all. The first ship appeared, a behemoth, bigger than any ship the creature had ever seen. It sailed through the dark, but not towards it, around it. Perfect orbit. A respectful distance, but close enough for the creature to see the words written so elegantly on the hull. Humanity, it read. A second ship appeared. A third. More and more, growing exponentially in size until the vastness of space didn't feel empty anymore. It was filled. It was perfect. It looked deeper inside of the ships. First it watched humans loosening crates of building materials. It didn't understand. The creature looked again. The next ships appeared. On the hull stood the word life. They were filled with healthy plants, looked after fungi, and the most magnificent creatures it had ever seen. It didn't understand, and again the creature looked. Then came the other ships, even more, even bigger. It saw, written on the hulls, the word joy. It saw humans celebrating inside. It saw crates filled with books. So many books on so many topics. Stories, knowledge, remembrance. Life is joy, the creature thought. And when its body would shrink even more, when its flesh would crack and crumble, joy would continue to exist. Life would be watched. Life would be remembered. Pride came to be that day. It felt good, thought the creature. Maybe even better than joy.